The Northern Territory, sparse, desolate, and home to over 2.1 million head of cattle. Combined with northwestern Queensland and its cattle population of more than 1.5 million, these two regions make up the northern beef industry. It is hard to believe that an industry with such a dense cattle population is failing. Unfortunately, this is the case, with beef producers forced to send their cattle up to 3,000 kilometres away for processing in either Townsville or another southern abattoir. These vast distances are necessary as there is no abattoir above the Townsville to Perth line. And with these great distances come great costs. Such expenses are taking their toll on beef producers who are now fighting to save their industry. Last month, Australia's largest beef producer, AACO, announced the location for its planned development of a local abattoir 50 kilometres south of Darwin. AACO Northern Territory General Manager Stuart Cruden says that a local abattoir would diversify the industry, a necessary change.
The catalyst to this wasn't around the live exports being stopped, but I think what it has done is the awareness around being able to diversify if something happens to the live shipment trade is pretty important, and some of the criteria that have been suggested or talked about around live shipment, then that could result in more cattle being available for slaughter than currently are, and therefore yes, it would support in the future the need for a abattoir in the Northern Territory. What we're saying is that we believe we can be very competitive in processing cows that fall out of the specifications for the live shipment trade and supply as good a returns, if not better returns, by processing them in the Northern Territory rather than putting them on trucks, where cattle can lose between 5 and 9% of their body weight as they travel those sort of distances.
Another unhappy beef producer is Rob Atkinson from Hewenden west of Townsville. 15 months ago, at a local AgForce meeting, Mr Atkinson said that the low cattle prices being offered by northern processors would send cattle producers broke. When other producers agreed, Mr Atkinson began a journey that saw him fly 3,000 kilometres in 3 days across various locations in Queensland. He spoke with 150 beef producers representing their 1.5 million head of cattle. Mr Atkinson said he knew then that there was enough support to form North Beef. North Beef has its sights set on building an abattoir somewhere along the Flinders Highway. Mr Atkinson says that competition will reduce the just one or two major monopoly players controlling the industry's cattle prices.
It's all about competition. If you don't have plenty of competition in the marketplace, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, you'll suffer. And beef producers have always been price takers, just like all primary producers have. We don't set the price. We're offered a price and you sort of take it or leave it from the processors, and it's just getting tighter and tighter at the farm gate. Inputs like fuel and infrastructure costs and everyday running costs just keep on going up and up.
Mr Atkinson says that it's not only competition that would make the industry more profitable, but also exporting our beef from Townsville rather than Brisbane.
I send a bullock into Townsville and exactly the same bullock is sent in to Dinmore in Brisbane. The bullock killed in Brisbane will make about $100 a head more money back to the producer. And simply that's because all the beef processed in Queensland ships out of Brisbane. All the Townsville beef, when it's packed, it goes by rail or road to Brisbane. It all ships out of the port of Brisbane, the whole lot. And then it's sailed straight back up past Townsville, heading for Asia again. So it seems crazy to us.
While beef producers see these two planned developments as positive, what will it mean for other existing abattoirs? JBS Swift owns a majority of the abattoirs in Queensland, including the local Townsville abattoir. The director of the company, John Berry, believes that it is great that people are willing to take such a commercial opportunity and does not seem concerned about lowered productivity. Producers make the decision where they send their cattle based on the season and what's the best price for their own business. Mr Berry also highlights a particular challenge that both proposals for an abattoir face. Since 1985, there has been a history of abattoir closures. Bob Catter, the Member for Parliament for the Kennedy region, explains these closures as a result of the seasonal nature of the industry.
Had 5 works, but the things that closed them down, I think ultimately, was the fact that there just wasn't enough fat cattle to keep them going in that last 3 months of the year. Well, you can't build a $30 million meatworks and then only operate it for 7 or 8 months, 8 or 9 months of the year.
Although the Bureau of Meteorology has forecasted strong La Nina conditions for the upcoming wet season, Mr Cruden, who is heading the planned Darwin Abattoir, believes that overcoming such predicted wet conditions is possible and is all about being able to access cattle.
Well, people keep telling us up here that you can't operate during the wets. We don't think that's correct. What you need to do is think around some strategies of where you've got cattle positioned so that they are available during the wets, which traditionally can close roads and rail and those sorts of things. So part of the strategy that we're looking at is where can we have cattle situated and grazing close enough to the plant that we're able to continue our process during that period and operate 12 months of the year.
Rob Atkinson, the chairman of North Beef, agrees with Mr Cruden. He believes that if an abattoir is to be built along the Flinders Highway, it will all be about location.
If your plant can be situated at a crossroads, like if you build a plant, say, at Winton, and you had a big influence come from the west and all that black soil downs country got wet, then you'd have to shut down, there wouldn't be any cattle be able to move. But if you had a plant at Charters Towers, and if you look at the road infrastructure, well, there's a whole different range of land types, so it's pretty important that geographically they look at location that isn't hindered if there's a big weather event.
While there are obvious obstacles that are yet to be overcome, these proposals look to be necessary for the future of business in the northern cattle industry.
So this is all just part of the diversification of our business, and we see some real advantages by being involved in an abattoir operation.
The rise of the abattoir in the north is not just necessary for the future of business, but also the future of northern families.
These people that work on these projects, they're great pioneers, they're great heroes. The Atkinsons were amongst the first 10 families to come and settle in North Queensland, and it amazes me that people like that, they have maintained that pioneering spirit right through to the present day and don't take lightly this proposal.
It's a long way from achieving anything yet, but if you don't have a go, nothing's going to change. And we'll give it a good shot and see where we land.
This is Megan Stafford reporting for JCNN.